Melusine by Reid. Chapter 22, The Secret of the Coffin. The doctor came back, and with him another man, a well-dressed, middle-aged Frenchman. He introduced himself as Maître Reid, the notary of the departed. "That means he's Sir Pay's lawyer," muttered Roger's father. "He's come to see us because I told the police that we are looking after Melusine." The doctor tried to give Melusine an examination, but she wouldn't let him come near her. She jumped from the table as he approached, knocking her chair over backward, and fled straight into Roger's bedroom, where she slammed the door. The doctor knocked and spoke to her in a kindly tone, but she didn't answer. In the end, he shrugged, gave Roger's mother some pills, and said he would come back tomorrow. "But we're going home tomorrow," said Polly the moment the doctor had gone. The family, who were all gathered in the kitchen, stared bleakly at each other. They were all thinking the same thing, that they would be leaving the place with all its frightening associations, returning to their familiar, safe lives. But there was Melusine. What about Melusine? What about Melusine? It was Roger who voiced the question, and they all turned their faces to look at Maître Gerard, who was standing near the stove, looking smooth but out of place. Roger noticed now that he was carrying a briefcase. Roger's father said, "Perhaps you can tell us what will happen to the girl." Maître Gerard cleared his throat. "It is possible that we may speak in some place a little more conventable." He made a wafting away gesture at the sink, the stove. Evidently, he wasn't accustomed to legal consultations in kitchens. Roger's father led the way through into the big room. The twins drifted away. Maître Gerard promised boredom, but Roger lingered in the doorway while his parents and the lawyer sat in the fine chairs around the Garden of Eden table. He desperately wanted to hear what would be said now, but he also didn't want to be out of earshot of Melusine. Maître Gerard put his briefcase on the polished tabletop and snapped it open. He seemed quite at ease now. He even wore a tight little smile under his thin mustache. Of course, lawyers throve on all this. Death, drama, crime. Like policemen, they were used to it, and it was what they lived by. Roger had to suppress a feeling of dislike for him, because he didn't seem to be feeling anything, unless perhaps it was enjoyment. Then he began to speak in broken English. "This most unfortunate happening has made Mademoiselle Sepet orpheline, and also, perhaps not happily for her, the inheritor to all this." He made another gesture, which took in the beautiful room and all it contained, but also the crumbling remains of the rest of the chateau. "But she's only a child. What will happen to her right now?" The lawyer gave a little shrug. "She will be placed, how you say, in the hands of the authorities." "You mean," Roger's mother leaned forward, "she'll be put in care?" "No doubt, madam. What other can be done for her?" "She has no relatives." The lawyer looked slightly uncomfortable, Roger thought. He began gesticulating more than before. "The family, you understand, was once a very big one. They own very much land. This chateau, I have seen paintings in the 17th was the finest house in the Vendée. But those days, madame, monsieur, they are past. In each generation, many sons and daughters. A parent dies, or the land is divided up among the children. They sell, they go away. Just one son is left to keep up the building. In the end is no money, nothing. The house, a little ground, a few beautiful things." He wafted his hand around the room, taking in the books, the tapestries, the rugs, the table. "I tell you the truth, monsieur. Who now inherit this place inherit what you call the white elephant. Many troubles and expenses and nothing to pay the bills." "It will have to be sold." Another shrug, this time a larger one. "Monsieur, I ask you, who will wish to buy? No, I will take charge on behalf of the young lady. I will sell what I can. I will make for her a trust, and when she is grown up and the chateau, it will fall to the ground." His speaking hands made a gesture of finality. "Couldn't the government?" Roger's father began. "After all, it's an historic building." The maître smiled thinly. "We are here a long way from Paris, monsieur." He rose to go, putting his papers away. Roger spoke from the doorway. "What about her sister?" The man spun round. "Pardon?" Melusine has a sister living away from home. The lawyer's eyes swiveled uneasily. He glanced at Roger's father. Your son, he has not been told. Roger's father looked blank. Told what? You yourself do not know. The police have tell you nothing. What are you hinting at? Asked Roger's father with an edge of irritation in his voice. The lawyer sat down again and looked at his briefcase for a moment. Then he raised his eyes. He looked at Roger's parent. I think better your son he is go out. Roger can hear whatever it is, said Roger's father. Please, get on with it. Roger came closer, his heart thudding again. The man beckoned him to join them at the table. I fear this will be a shock. You see the tower, how you call it. Roger's father leaned forward. The coffin. Oui, c'est ça. He coughed behind his hand. I have it from a friend of me, a police officer. It contains the remains of the older daughter of my client. There was a horrified silence around the table. Roger was the first to recover enough to speak. Do you mean Melusine's sister was in the coffin? Dead? The lawyer bowed his head. But how did she die? The man said, I cannot say with certainty until the inquest, but I hear a rumor that pauvre petite has ended her own life. When? Roger's father almost barked. Some years ago, monsieur. I can guess when it happened. When my client tell me his daughter go live with her uncle in Canada. It was since 5 years. Why did he tell you such a thing? Madame, is it not clear the young girl, she kill herself? The father, perhaps he think he will be blamed? He tell everybody she has go far away to live with her uncle. No one ask question. They all sat in silence, trying to take this in. Roger's mind was in ferment. Why did he keep her like that instead of burying her? Ah, that I cannot say. Monsieur Sepe, he is, shall I say, un homme bizarre, a strange man. I fear worse than that. Such men have strange ideas. You see how he make for her like a church? Perhaps he go there to pray her to forgive him. Ah! Exclaimed Roger's father sharply. Monsieur, it wasn't donnez-moi mes filles. Give me my daughters. It was pardonnez mes filles. Forgive me my daughters. Even as he was falling, he was asking them to forgive him. But what for? Cried Roger's mother in a strained voice. What had he done to them? Nobody spoke. The lawyer lifted his shoulders in a last, very faint shrug without raising his eyes. And Melusine, said Roger's father, did she know about that coffin? Maître Girard got up again and lifted his briefcase off the table. He seemed to be staring down at the design it had been covering. Roger wondered if he had noticed the snake. I will not say yes, and I will not say no, but I ask, how could she live here with him and not know? It is better we do not speak of this to the police. N'est-ce pas? Roger's mother suddenly burst into tears, burying her face in both hands. Oh, my God, she sobbed. My God, the poor little thing! Both of them, poor little things! Roger turned abruptly and left the room. He was waiting outside by the lawyer's car. He hadn't yet finished with Maître Girard. He arrived in a hurry, swinging his case, and he broke his stride when he saw Roger waiting. Then he picked up speed again. Alors, mon brave? He said in a hard, brisk tone. Qu'est-ce que tu veux? Je suis pressé. And it was as if he really couldn't be bothered to speak English just for Roger. There's an uncle in Canada, you said so yourself? The man paused with his hand on the door handle of the smart black car. His jaw muscles flickered briefly. He looked as if he were angry with himself, as if he'd made a mistake. Roger decided he really didn't like him. He didn't trust him. I have no contact with him. But you know about him. You could find out where he is. The police in Canada could find out. For what? Wasn't it obvious? So that Melusine could go and live with him if he was all right, suitable, and if she wanted to. There was a brief silence, and then he burst out. If he was okay at all, it would be better than being in a home. She couldn't bear that, and she'd be all alone. Maître Girard turned to him. His eyes were narrow. How do you know about this, uncle? She told me. You are a friend of her? He nodded. The man was watching him closely. She tell you anything more than this? Roger didn't answer. You have an idea what has been going on in this chateau? Roger stared at him. For years now there are rumors. Some are not hard to believe. He looked past Roger at the great gray building with its towers and its slate roof and the lichen on its walls. Some were true, as we learn now, but other rumors are the foolish talk of paisans. Country people have so little to think about, so they talk nonsense. Do you know this name, this Melusine? You know the legend? Roger didn't speak or make a sign. He was holding his breath. She is a woman that changed herself to a snake, and it has been said... He stopped. He was still staring at the gray walls. Roger thought he saw him shiver. Then he straightened up. If some of these paysans, instead of talk so much, had do something, if I myself... He looked at Roger again. I will discover, he said abruptly, about the uncle. And he almost thrust Roger aside in this hurry to get into the car and drive away over the rough grass. And that's the end of chapter